what's happened today is a lot of Americans have overtaxed their liver. What that does is it dries it out, and then the person is producing half the amount of bile that they should be producing. What that does is it makes the food abnormally greasy. So you have double the grease, half the digestion. Half the digestion means you're not assimilating nutrition, which means that you're more hungry even though you've eaten. Sugar is a convenient way to satisfy the hunger cravings, and then excess sugar creates a drag on the system, and you have skyrocketing rates of diabetes growth in America and also obesity. So the condition of the liver can have a direct correlation between rates of other illness, and I refer to that as one particular condition causing multiple issues. What happens too when you have double the grease, that the body is not accessing that nutrition, then you have double the waste. And this is just an estimate. But if you have double the waste, then that's a significant cause of constipation. And so you have a lot of Americans who are on some kind of a weight program. They are overweight, they are depressed, and they are constipated. Constipation is logically is a waste buildup. If you have a huge cork where you should be having waste removal, you have lymphatic fluid retention, which extends even into the chest and those lymphatic ducts. Dehydration, the body is working very hard building up heat and using water to process waste. Excess waste is excess acidity, joint pain, and you have a general metabolic breakdown. The liver has been cataloged to be responsible for 1,500 different bodily metabolic functions. When that happens, the types of illnesses that result can be diverticulitis, acid reflux, Crohn's, infections, increase of parasites, including single parasites like all types of fungus, tumor growth, and or cancers, which is just off the charts as far as incidence in America. So I've been in a very unique position, and that has allowed me to have some very unique learnings. So I've ended up writing a couple of books, and what I found while I was in the process of writing, my clients were providing all the content. How we think makes probably the number one difference in the things that we do for our health. The person who cares is yourself, and then what we become is unaware of our own thought processes that are preventing us from making decisions that might be healthy. And I know that's a little bit tricky. Now the second thing that she said was, I've also just recently discovered that the microwave oven has an effect on the food. And she said, well, how do I heat my food? And I said, well, you could do a pan on the stove. And she literally said, this was an hour ago. I didn't think of that. I didn't think of that. So again, it's the thought process of backing yourself into something just to continue on with what your current habits might be. And we really work ourselves into points of absurdity. And so you just kind of want to get to a level of honesty with yourself. So for example, if you walked into this room and said, gee, I'm really thirsty, what am I going to have to drink? Coca-Cola, you know? And then you're like, ooh, I shouldn't drink Coca-Cola. And so there's this inner dialogue that's going on, and that's the critical component. And so what I say as a health therapist is, if you want the Coca-Cola, drink the Coca-Cola. There's no reason to play some kind of a mental game as for what's healthy and what's not. You just kind of do what you want, and the guilt factor is a suppression factor of your overall vitality, and that's really what the whole thing is about. You know, you want to jump out of bed in the morning, and you want to be happy. And now my grandmother was that kind of person, and she did nothing for her health. She ate out all the time. She had sausage and eggs at the restaurants, and she lived to be 94 and was basically healthy. but she was a very loving person, and that kind of thing trumps whether or not you're eating the whole food or the. So I just kind of want to get out of the way that the healthy thing is not like I should do this. The healthy thing is to say if you're doing it, then that's right for you. I just want to encourage everybody to sort of endorse the decisions that you make, and then you learn incrementally. Now, what I would have to present is just the optimal of what my experience has been from 11 years of being a practicing colon hygienist and seeing what people do and the changes that they make and then the improvements that they experience. If you're working and you have the shipping department and you have the sales department, those two departments need to communicate to improve the overall processes. And so, just as a part of our society, I'm someone you don't normally get to talk to.
How does someone come to you?
How do they come to me?
Yeah, are they referred by their physician, or do they just find you on their own? How would someone get involved in colon therapy?
Well, there are multiple therapists in town. I myself have not advertised for 6 or 7 years, so it's sort of develops into a referral where it's working for someone and then they call. So you kind of have to know somebody, in my case, who would know to contact me. And then you just call and make an appointment. It's pretty simple. It's very low tech.
You don't have to come through a physician or a result of, okay. That's what
No, and if you ask a physician, there's all types of opinions from the medical community as far as whether it's even good for you. Some doctors would say absolutely not, never do it. And that's fine. If you ask them how many sessions they've actually witnessed or experienced themselves, they'll usually tell you 0. So where's their opinion coming from? This one here came out of Prevention magazine, and this just gives examples of what a whole food would be. Some people actually don't know the difference between a whole food and a Pop-Tart. And this just lays it out very simply. What I would say is you can't really tell the difference between what's organic and what's not organic. For example, when I first started becoming aware that there was a difference between organic and not organic, I thought, well, strawberries, my gosh, the organic strawberries are $5, $6 for the same amount you can get on sale for maybe $2. Why would I spend that extra money? That the non-organic ones look just as good, and they're just hanging, so there wouldn't be any kind of a pesticide issue. And then I saw a movie, and strawberries was the first thing they were showing with these things, and they were just gassing all over on the strawberries, and I was like, okay, I'm going to spend the extra money. Not only that, things that we don't consider, the difference between organic and not organic is the transportation of that, because most things are grown not necessarily locally, so they have to truck them. And if you've ever hung around strawberries, what do? They mold. So right before they leave, they put an antifungal on it. Then you eat that antifungal. Now the antifungal is not good for you. And so your body has to process the antifungal. So anyway, all whole foods are not created equally. And so I just wanted to sort of disclaimer that. So, I mean, people would literally come in and weep and cry. You know, I've been to so many doctors and I don't know what's wrong with me, and I've got X, Y, and Z, and then you hook them up and it's like, I can see you are having a problem because of just this backup. And so I began to read a lot of books, just from the library, like books that were written in the 1960s that wouldn't even be out for sale now. What it means is that when people will come into my office and cry, they usually have something that could have been prevented had they taken care of something further upstream. And so that's what I try and point out to people is, look, it's very, very simple to correct this thing over here, but instead we're correcting, the symptoms. Okay, so we've all heard that before, don't correct the symptoms, correct the core cause. But finding the cause is nearly impossible because the information that's available is mostly pathetic. Am I okay?
You're fine.
I mean, I don't mean, the thing is when you know something is correct and you repeatedly see that the information that's in the news, in the media, is so sorely lacking that it does make you want to speak out and say, this is incorrect. And so now one of those is, what's the cause of constipation? So that you're not eating enough fiber. But that's completely wrong. It's completely bogus. And so people are paying attention to things that aren't even a point of leverage. And so that's what this is. This is a diagram that I've tried to lay out as clearly as possible, a point of leverage. And that is your body's ability to produce bile. Okay, does anybody know what bile is here?
There's a handout that tells you.
Okay, so we're not familiar with bile. Bile should be on the front page of the newspaper. Bile discovered, I mean, it's quite significant. And a lot of people are not manufacturing enough bile within their body and really within their liver. And how that manifests itself really is, the end result is a plugged up body. Okay, and I'm just going to explain how this works. And I've stolen this information from a book, and it makes complete sense. And also I published this in 2 books, and I've had several doctors come to me and say, this is exactly right. Bile is soap that your body produces. And every time you eat fat, you require bile. And bile comes out of the liver, goes into the gallbladder, and then is released like a salt and pepper shaker on the food as it's passing. And it emulsifies the fat, okay? Otherwise, how are you going to get the fat into your body? And fat is very critical in terms of repair, energy, and storage. So you have to get the fat from your food metabolized into your body. And that's really the function of bile. And lacking in bile, then what you have is excessively greasy food digesting in your digestive tract. And that's not a small problem, because what breaks apart the food as you're eating it are little things called enzymes. So have you heard of enzymes before? Okay. And enzymes are produced by your body, and they're like hatchets that take the food, comes in, it's big, right? You've chewed it, and it's big. The enzymes chop it into little molecular bits that your body can now assimilate it through the digestive tract. But if it's greasy, then the enzymes aren't designed to penetrate the grease, right? So what do you have? You have less access to the nutrition that's in the food, and you have increased waste because you're not burning that food. So you have sort of a double whammy. You have less nutrition, and you have, what does that mean? That means lower energy, your body has less ability to repair itself. All critical in our world today. We need to be continually repairing. Then that increases what you haven't burned. That increases the volume that's passing through your body because you haven't burned it. And also it's particularly greasy, which causes all kinds of problems downstream. Downstream is just the flow. Well, your digestive tract itself has the surface area of a tennis court. So it's designed for assimilation. You have a question?
You're talking about enzymes. How do you feel about probiotics?
I will totally get to that. That's the second component.
Rachel has a question.
Oh.
How do you correct if you determine
determine that you don't have enough bile? How do you correct something like that? I mean,
And so I could, typically we're looking for just something easy. Well, just drink this, or just do this. And really, the number one practical thing is you need to understand why. Because there's all kinds of things we could be taking, all kinds of things we could be eating, all kinds of things we could be doing for ourselves, but we're not doing it because we don't really understand why. Okay, so that's why that's why I've made this handout is to point out to you that you're never going to be aware of how your body is manufacturing bile. You can't feel it being made. You can't feel any of it. We're completely unaware. So if you know that bile is critical to the breakdown and assimilation of fats, then you can do something about it. Now, if I came in here and said, well, you should be all taking flax oil every day, you'd be like, okay. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. And so what matters to me, I'd like results. And so I have found from working with people, if they understand the why, then they'll make the change. So I'll have people come back 3 months later, I'm still taking the oil. I'm like, that's great. How are you doing? I have better energy. I've lost weight. Now there's been encyclopedic books documenting the benefits of essential fatty acid oils for the human body, because it's not just in the production of bile. It affects, if you've ever had a yeast infection, and I know I don't want to get the gross factor, but it's antifungal, it's supportive of the probiotics in your body, it helps with your sense of well-being, weight loss and weight gain. Your digestive tract lining is composed of fats. It's a protective barrier. We had a woman yesterday who had celiac disease. It's like that is a direct correlation with essential fatty acid oils and your ability to protect against not assimilating undigested food into your bloodstream.
Hey, Scott, while you're on the subject of essential fatty oils, will you talk to them like what you talked about yesterday about the oil soluble chemicals and why the essential fatty oils are necessary in order to give you any protection against those chemicals that you get on a daily basis?
Okay, excellent.